Hey, back. I wasn't planning to come back for at least a week. I said I was going to do a podcast every week. But I got a whiff of two things. Two things that are just on my mind. And since nobody's here to listen to these opinions, I thought I'd come on here and give my opinions. I don't know which one I want to do first. But okay, I'm going to do it in the order of which I seen the situations. The first one, and I'm going to be looking down because I want to make sure I get the names right and certain stuff right because I took notes. So the first thing I want to talk about is what's going viral everywhere right now, which is the Ashley Jenae Robinson. Beautiful, beautiful young black woman. That was okay, everything in this videos on my podcast, which I have on the channel, is all alleged. They're only my opinions. It's not true. I don't have no money. I don't even have money to go see my nephew get married. What makes you think I have money? Oh, who? Nobody might even see this. But anyway, this is for me. Her name was, rest in peace, Jenae. Ashley Jenae Robinson. She was 31 years old. And of course, everybody knows she went to Africa with her boyfriend, Tanzania. Her boyfriend, Joe McCain, which was of opposite race. Everybody knows that. She's black, he's white. They were dating for a year and a half, and they decided to take this birthday trip. It was her birthday. So that kind of resonates with me because she's an Aries. So they took her, went to Africa to celebrate her birthday. She was posting, showing the wildlife. They were right on a game resort, out at damn freaking animals just going everywhere, feeding giraffes, and walking tigers walking by. And she got engaged and posted that. And then I think they said hours after that beautiful post of engagement, she was found dead. Well, not dead. She was found unresponsive in her hotel room. And then, long story short, she passed away in the hospital. The fiance didn't even let her parents know that she passed away. It was the hotel that called her parents and said, "Hey, your daughter has passed away." He did call her 11 hours after she was already in the hospital, letting them know that something happened and she was doing okay. But anyway, anyhow, so that's her story. That's what's going on. My thoughts. We need to be careful. We need to be careful. I don't know the situation. Only thing I know is what's out there on the blogs, and and it's that she called her mother. She said him and her got in a fight. Aries, when we get in a fight, we see red. We don't care what comes out our mouth. We don't care. We're gonna get our point across. And evidently, and some of us a strike. So evidently, this argument was so bad they had to separate the rooms. Okay. So when they separated the rooms, she had called, I guess, for a phone cord because maybe she left her other belongings and all that stuff in the other room, and she needed a phone cord for her phone. Two different stories. From the fiance, he went there to check on her, found her with something wrapped around her neck, hanging from a door handle. Now, I don't know. Some places the door handles are up high overseas. I don't know if that was the situation. I've never been there. I couldn't stand a long flight anyway. So she was found. That's his story. Which, when she went to the hospital and when they did the assessment of her, and he told this story to the employees at the hospital, they wrote down what he said, found her hanging from a door handle, and put question marks after it. Because, for real, that's your story. So what I got from that is Tanzania is in Africa. I'm going to assume that the staff was of Black Africans. Um, I don't know if it's South Africa. I don't know where this place lies. I'm sorry, but did he just did he just think that everybody was black and stupid? I don't know. They said, that the government can be bought, because US dollars is so much more. I think it's like one US dollar is 2,000 plus. I'm not it's a lot of money over there. So they were saying, oh yeah, he could have just paid him off, because the first report that came from police is that it was no foul play, that she took her own situation. But then the hospital had questions. They saw the marks that were on her neck, um, and they attributed to strangulation. But nobody had arrested him. Nobody did anything to him. The police were saying, yeah, she did it to herself too. It was her family saying no. It was I guess, the media attention that's on this case of them saying, no, that doesn't sound right, people. We're not going to wash this young girl's death under the rug. And so now they took his passport, cannot leave the country, and he's being questioned. So I'm thinking to myself, with that little lame story that did he just think everybody was stupid? This is, I've always lived by the motto, you don't know nobody until you're around them for 5 years. 3 to 5 years is when you get to know a real. Some people can fake the funk for the longest. I'm not one of those people, but some people can. So when I was hearing this story, the writings on the wall of what happened. You had an argument. 6 hours later, this young lady is unconscious, marks on her neck. You're saying it happened from a doorknob. She gets to the hospital and she expires. Another thing about her, I'm just so sick over this, but another thing about her fiance is that he was into crypto. That's how he made his money, from what I got. He was big into crypto, multi-million dollars off of one crypto. And then last year, he kind of like lost it all. Now, I don't know about you, but when crypto came in, even, Cash App has you could buy crypto. When crypto came in, I was like, what kind of new money? I was like, what kind of Ponzi scam is this? Because the last time I know, the only thing that's insured is the money that has the dollar signs and the 2 lines do it. It's no crypto. That, to me, that can't be insured. So it kind of reminded me of an Enron. And for people who are young and don't know what Enron is, Enron was a company in the 80s that made these fictitious retirement accounts, had their employees put in money as a 401k for their retirement. Then when stuff started to hit the fan, Enron took the money, took the people's retirement money. People had thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on, what type of level employee you were. So when I hear crypto, I think of that. I think of, nah. If you ain't FDI insured, I can't rock with you. So he lost a lot of money. This guy went from, I think they said that he put $200 and he grossed with this crypto by, I'm going to put it out there, I'm probably scamming, my opinion, but probably scamming. He had gotten over a net worth over $200 million. So then last year he lost the bulk of that. I think they said 180 million. So this is a man who went from probably nothing with a $200 investment to having all this money. And we all know sometimes money can be the root of all evil. And when you get that money and you haven't had that money and you want to keep that money, sometimes you can put yourself in certain groups, certain affiliations. This is just me talking. You know, it could be they, they just had a fight. Well, obviously they had a fight. He was mad. They separated each other. She was mad. They separated each other. And then he went back to the villa. Now, one thing I can say from my past experiences being an Aries, I don't know if it's just being an Aries or being a woman or what it is. But sometimes if I have a fight, if I have 10 minutes, 15 minutes to calm down, it's done for me. You know what I'm saying? So did he come knocking at the door and she let him in? You know what I'm saying? Thinking, hey, I want to salvage this relationship. I don't know what the fight was over. Only two people know what the fight was over, in God. So I'm just playing in my head the scenarios like everybody else. What the hell happened? We know the outcome. You know what I'm saying? And the outcome don't look good for Mr. McCain, Joe. I'm just gonna call him Joe. So to me, it don't look good. But I say that y'all, I get scattered all over. But I was saying that to say that some people want to get in these little cliques, these little, organizations to keep themselves rich. And we all know that these organizations dabble into all kind of devilish stuff. Whether it's witchcraft, whether it's sacrifice, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So this man just lost all this money. He spends. He probably didn't spend that much money on the vacation, because of our U.S. dollars is so much more. Shoot, no wonder they were right there with the animals. Shoot, $1,000. You know what I'm saying? You shoot, the animals might be feeding you. You know what I'm saying? But it's just fishy, and I wish when somebody is convicted, by their peers of murder, that we could give them a truth serum. You know what I'm saying? You're already going to get the death penalty or, spend the rest of your life in jail. So let's get the truth. That could do two things. That could either prove that people who are wrongly convicted actually did not do it, because truth serum, you're going to tell the truth, or you will find out exactly what happened to that person. Why should you be allowed to sit there, rot in jail, and the person's family really don't know what happened to her? So that's just a little tidbit. But I really think that, this is just my thought, that he went bankrupt. All we know, she could have life insurance on her. They had been together 1.5 years. He just got engaged to her. What was the argument about? Was it about that, you lied to me? You don't have the money that you went all this time without telling me this is your financial situation, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Or was it, hey, they were trying to say that she's still seeing Kevin Gates? Are they talking about Kevin Gates, the rapper? Or are they talking about another Kevin Gates? I need to look that up. But they're saying that she was still seeing some guy named Kevin Gates. So, okay. I accept your proposal. But before we go down this road and get married, I got to tell you the truth of what has really been going on. And that was just your girlfriend. You don't know. You just don't know. But what I do know is that the young lady lost her life. What I do know is that it's sad. What I do know, she was only 31 years old. What I do know, this guy was bankrupt. And what I do know is sometimes that people will sacrifice. I mean, we're not saying something. I'm not saying something new. Sacrifices has been around ever since the beginning of time. If there was a sacrifice to a god, there was sacrifices for money. There was sacrifices for a lot of stuff in this industry. And now, my prayers go out to her family. She was a beautiful girl. I'm going to go and look at some of her videos. Her family does have a GoFundMe account to try to bring her body back. I'm waiting for the official autopsy. I'm going to be following this. But the other thing I want to talk about is that I watched a documentary today, and it was about Michael Jackson. And it was called Michael Jackson, An American Tragedy. And it was done on the BBC, which is a overseas network, which I think I've said before in some of my videos. that I read overseas mail, not overseas mail, but overseas newspapers, because if it gets over there, it has to be true. You never know. Like when I was sitting there watching this documentary, there's been so many conspiracy theories about Michael Jackson. Is he gone? Is he not gone? Is it the love that we have for him that hopes that he escaped the madness that he was trying to escape, and he's sitting somewhere on the island just enjoying his life, or in Australia or somewhere, or who knows, but the documentary was good. It was a 3-part series. So it was a docu-series, and it started off in his childhood. The first, but I was shocked about it, is that it moved pretty quickly. When I saw it was 3 parts, I was like, okay, we're going to stay with that Motown era for the first episode. But during that first episode went for him growing up to allegations. The second episode was the allegations, him coming back out of it, then more allegations. The third one was allegations, his untimely death, a little bit of conspiracy, and all kind of stuff. But Michael Jackson lived a very, like most entertainers that get to his level, live a very lonely life. And I was sad. I wanted to cry, that the trauma, a child that goes through so much trauma alters their appearance. Now, we all know that he had the skin disease, and that, people thought he was lightening his skin to fit a certain culture. And that's sad that but it doesn't surprise us because, in America, if you're a certain color, which it has been for a while, not, I guess maybe the 90s it started to change, late 80s, but if you were a certain color, you was expect to act a certain way. And you couldn't be, if you wanted to reach a certain level, you had to play a game. Like, it was funny because when he was doing interviews, later on in his life, or like when he went out on stage with his ex-wife, Lisa Marie Presley, God rest her soul, that, he started off with that deep voice, and then I guess it clicked in his mind where he was, and the voice went high. Another thing, I'm noticing that all do that, because in the beginning of the documentary, his sister LaToya, who looks very frail, beautiful but frail, very, very, very skinny, she did it. When she walked in, she was like, okay, are y'all ready? Because I'm ready. Normal voice. Y'all ready? Because I'm ready. She sat down with the camera. Okay, are we going to get this going? Or whatever she said, I'm ready. Then when they acknowledges that the camera's going, hey, yes, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Paris Hilton is famous for that too. So, you had to manipulate yourself. As African Americans, we've been doing that for a very long time. Because most of the time you had to maneuver yourself to keep from being killed, but I digress. But Michael, it was a very good documentary. It hit on everything. It was just so sad, and then that's why I got to this point. I said, let me do the influencer first and then Michael Jackson, because it's all about money. It's all big money. Who said it? Biggie. More money, more problems. You know what I'm saying? And that's just it. Especially if you're a person of God, or a person that believes in a higher being. You know what I'm saying? It seems like, when I was watching it, the thing that was coming to my mind is that, everybody who is pure of heart, as in the entertainment industry, they made them seem to be so bad. You're a pedophile, or you're a racist, or you're an abuser, or you're this, or you're that. Media just put it all out there and made this person seem like such a bad person. But then the ones who are so really wicked and evil, oh, he's such a great guy. Oh, that John Wayne. So y'all don't know who John Wayne is, go look him up. That John Wayne loved everybody. You know what I'm saying? It was, that clicked in my mind. That clicked in my mind. It was making him seem to be such a weirdo. And if you step back, yeah, he messed his face up, but that was trauma. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people out here who's messing up their face from trauma. If you have the money and you have trauma and you have access to fuck up your face, that's what you're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? You're never gonna be good enough when you look at that mirror if you have trauma with what is going on with you physically. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of overlooked that. You know, I was one of those girls who loved Michael Jackson, who wanted to marry Michael Jackson. I'm telling you, when Billie Jean came out and he had that first, I always thought Michael Jackson was handsome, even with the big nose, but when he had that first nose job and he was in that Billie Jean video and he was standing over the bed and he was looking down at Billie Jean with his hands in his pocket and he looked into them beautiful, beautiful eyes. And those eyes were saying, I want you, I'm gonna get in this bed. I want to do all kind of things. I wanted to marry Michael Jackson. I was like, damn, Mike. Oh man. And you know what they said about them dancers. Lord. And so people who were really around him said, he loved women. And certain things you could see. But again, he grew up in a time where segregation was big. I want to talk about that too. So I'm going to get off Michael Jackson quick. Segregation was it. They were in the chitlin circuit. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't allowed to go in certain venues. You know what I'm saying? That's what he come up with in. So this new generation don't understand that at one time you couldn't walk down the street and look a white person in the eye, or you would be hanging from a tree. I had a lot of people say, yeah, I would do that. Well, we would all say that. There were times in U.S. history where African, the slaves, killed a lot of, white people and went on massacres and things of that nature. But the powers that be, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't want to get too far in that. But, when I was watching that documentary, I just felt so sad, for him. And at the end, when he, had that last allegation and you could see it damn near killed him. Either killed him with the drugs or whatever. Michael Jackson, he accomplished so much. And when you accomplish so much, again, not only do people look for organizations and little, Illuminatis to align themselves with, but those organizations look to align with you. And, if you don't play ball with them, you might just... there's a lot of deaths in Hollywood that need to be examined, especially when it says it's drug overdose. So it was just towards that end. He, in the beginning, he was such Black Power. He was always Black Power, but he was more vocal with it, and that's not good for a certain system that tries to keep people controlled. When you try to awaken a whole generation or society, and society is all about, and old money, you get kind of caught up in stuff that you really don't want to be in. And that was so... But it's a very good, if you're a Michael Jackson fan, like who's not a Michael Jackson fan? Just go look at the documentary. They do touch on, him and the molestation. And, I never in there seen anybody say, yes, I actually saw anything. And I'm thinking, if you're in, Michael Jackson's house, there's cameras. There got to be cameras. There have to be cameras. So the fact that, and there was the first allegation was like the cops who was working on it. They were like, well, the boy described his penis. If you're a big machine trying to down somebody, people go to doctors all the time. I'm sure he went to the doctors for his skin condition. I'm sure somebody has seen the body and what the skin condition was. People can be paid off. Hey, tell me what that looked like. So, or you sitting there having tea. Whoa, he was your patient? Man, tell me what that looked like. You know what I mean? I don't want to say, I don't want to say that he didn't do it. Nobody knows. But from what I saw on Michael Jackson, I mean, even before this documentary, growing up with Michael Jackson, that he had a very lonely life, that he didn't have a childhood. That does a lot and messes up a person a lot. Look at all the child people that turn to drugs, that turn to this, that turn to that, and he kind of came out of it. But I think I think they were trying to get at Michael when he first did that, when he got the Thriller and Billie Jean. But he had been in the business for so long, it took a lot to get the Beatles catalog, where you get the residuals for the Beatles work every time it gets paid. That took a lot of smarts, and he was in the industry. Everybody said he soaked up everything like a little sponge when he was little. So it wouldn't surprise me, the big record company said, "Hey, we want this, we want that, want this." He said, "No, oh no, here's allegations. Oh no, you came out of that. Wow." You went back to your, your people held you up, your fans held you up. Well, here's another one. You know what I'm saying? And then, when he left America, he was trying to find him somewhere to go. When he left America, he was doing so good. Nobody could touch him. You know what I'm saying? It's just so funny that as soon as Michael Jackson comes back to the US, he's dead. Nobody finds that. Nobody do Arsenio Hall with that one. As soon as he comes back, and he's with this new management company, which allows you to rely on these people for new people around you. And, hey, Sony, he had almost a Sony. Where does all that go to now? Rest in peace, Michael Jackson. But it was a good documentary, and it's sad. I just want to cry when I think about Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Elvis, Amy Winehouse, all these phenomenal people. We can go back to Judy Garland's. You know what I'm saying? We can go back to I think it was Emma Todd. I don't know. I forget. Todd, whatever her name was. Silent screen actress. I mean, how, entertainment industry is It's 28 minutes. The last thing I want to talk about, because I was into segregation with Michael Jackson, was reparations. I read somewhere that the UN, United Nations, the world, is looking into reparations for slavery. I also read that in San Francisco, they have already passed a bill, I believe, for reparations, and they're just trying to figure out what type of reparations they want to give, whether it's money or whether it's property, and eliminate debt so you have a perfect credit score. That's what they're thinking about in San Francisco. So here's my thought of reparations. I would love for us African Americans to get reparations, and hopefully it would come true, because you get reparations for the Holocaust, you got reparations for the genocide of Indians. I think that we lost a lot of people, just not, even though they said we were already here. Okay, let's go by their account. Us coming over on the slave ships, how many died? Your doors overboard. Yeah, that's your story. And then you come here, you kill us, you rape us, you eat us, you make purses out of us, you make shoes out of us, you make furniture out of our hair and us. And that's a lot of hate to make a furniture out of a person. But anywho, I think that we deserve it. We deserve it. You know what I'm saying? Anybody, I say, that can to trace yourself back to the 60s, 50s, you can trace. I even go back for the 40s, 30s. If you can trace your family back that far, if you can trace your family back before the Civil Rights era, the Civil Rights Bill, you should get reparations. And not only should we give reparations for slavery, but I got one more. We should give reparations for Jim Crow as well. Because Jim Crow, the next Jim Crow years, we lost a lot of people as well. A lot of mothers, a lot of sons, a lot of daughters, a lot of fathers do Jim Crow. So if you let's tack it all in there. And we're still dealing with the mind fuck that the powers that be has put on our community and continue to put on our community. You know what I'm saying? Continue to this day. That's a whole nother podcast. But okay, I've been on here for 30 minutes, 50 seconds. I had just went out and watered the garden. I didn't go on a walk today. I'll probably go on a walk tomorrow. I think I'm going to do a live tomorrow. Maybe I'll do a live tomorrow while I'm walking. But those were my thoughts for today. Again, rest in peace to both of these people. You know, they both, if you look at it, seem to so much evil in this world. So much evil. Cain killed Abel. So much evil in this world. But anyway, that's it. I'm going to go and do what I do. It's been a pleasure. I really need to talk to somebody. Nobody's here to talk to. So I'm going to come talk to you. All right. Have a good day. Bye.